Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me once again. You're always most welcome. Well, today, another one of these kits that seems to have passed me by for some reason, and I don't know why I didn't buy this one. It's the Tamiya Mitsubishi A6M3 3A0 Zeke. The fighter, obviously, that was very prevalent throughout 1943, Battle of Midway, and the Battle of, what's the other island? Wake Island and around there. So yes, very, very prevalent in the forefront of the battle in the Pacific for the Japanese Navy and the Japanese Army Air Force. And here we have it in 1/48 scale. And I've got a funny feeling I'm going to really like this, not just because it's Tamiya, but I think there's a few extras that I didn't perhaps realise were in the kit, to be quite honest, when I maybe saw it for sale or saw it in the shops. So, certainly something I haven't seen before, a Zero from Tamiya at all, I don't think I've seen. Now I've got the Edward Pearl Harbor version, the A6M1, is it? M2. So let's have a look at what we've got. So, we have got, first of all, it is kit number, was that 48108? Yeah, or sorry, 61108. They have a slightly confusing nomenclature for some of the kits. On the side, we've got nice artwork as usual, of course. On the side, we have got one of the options, and it's the Yamaguchi Prefecture Autumn 43. The Awakuni Air Base. There you go. I didn't butcher it after all. Did it right? And here you can see that one's got drop tanks, and of course the Zeke has got these fold-up tips. Well, I think the 3A has got the fold-up tips. We'll come to that in a second. Yeah. So the 3 doesn't fold the tips, and the 3A does fold up the tips. So you get already. You can see you're going to get quite a few things in this kit. And there's the standard 3, as per the similar to the one that's on the front. Really rather nice, and this is where it starts to get a little bit special, because here we can clearly see we have got some very honourable Japanese Navy pilots who in traditional sort of leather gear for the era at the time, those figures look really rather special in 48 scale, so that's a bonus. Now we talked about this, didn't we, about, I know I've mentioned it a few times recently, and at the time of me recording this video I haven't got round to the let's talk about Tamiya, because we're going to go through all these major manufacturers. I'm trying to not do every single one of them, but the ones that people recognise, and just pause for thought with some of them. None of them are perfect. There's going to be plenty to criticise in Tamiya as well, but Tamiya tend to be a little bit more expensive than the Airfixes or the Revels of this world. But as you'll see in this kit, you do get quite a lot of extra, so you get quite good value in them. This is the thing that sometimes gets missed. If you want a very basic kit and you haven't got a lot of money, then perhaps Tamiya you wouldn't necessarily choose. However, you know, this kit I know contains photo etch. It mentions it, I didn't point it out. It mentions it here on the side, so you're getting photo etch. They include a mask set, I think. And you've got figures as well, and we like figures. And this is where I'm not trying to bash Airfix, please don't think I am, but I just wish that Airfix would take this on board. As I've said before, I think our friends at Revell in Germany, at the moment anyway, are kind of almost beyond help a little bit. And again, I'm not trying to bash them, but break me wrong, I'd love to be proven wrong. Let's have some figures, let's have some stands, let's have some masks. Certainly, you know, masks and photo etch I'm not bothered about either way, if the plastic's good enough. But things like masks to help you actually spray the canopy, kind of essential, to be honest. We shouldn't have to go to aftermarket and keep buying other things because the kit manufacturer can't be provided to put it in the box. What's the point? You know, it makes it suddenly look a very expensive kit. One that was very cheap to start with becomes very expensive, like my Revell Tornado, but we talked about that already. Anyway, we'll get into this kit and we'll see what. I'm not trying to big up Tamiya. I know you do big up. No, it's not that. I'm just trying to get people to understand that there's a price to be paid to have all the parts you need to build the kit. Tamiya tend to include it all. You see in Armour Hobby doing the same. They've been doing that. I recently did the Aero Cobra review, and they had masks included and everything you needed was in there. Really good, you know. That's what we need. We certainly need masks in the kits. I certainly would like to see Airfix in the future, including masks. Whether it's convenient for them or not, frankly, I think as time goes on, I think that it's going to look more and more unfavourable toward them if they don't have a rethink around that. I'm sure that they could team up with someone who can produce those, perhaps in the UK even at a relatively low cost. I don't think it's that complicated a thing to do. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about that today. Let's just see what we have in this kit. But the one thing that shouts at me straight away here is that it's got figures, which I didn't know really, because it's not sort of majored on the front. It doesn't show them on the front, so you don't necessarily realise until you look into it. So, I think we'll start where we usually start, which is with the decals. It's quite a lot of sprues actually for a relatively small aircraft. I'm probably going to prove me wrong now. I bet there's going to be no masks. And I'll be annoyed if there isn't. I'll tell them off. I shall say so. No, there are masks. There are masks. Right, so here we go. Let's start with this little bag then, which has already been opened. This has been lent to us by a good friend of the channel, David. So thanks a lot, David. Definitely one I've overlooked for far too long, I think this one is. Let's see what we've got here. So let's move the old box, if we can, and have a look at Tamiya's decals. Now, we all, sometimes it's dated 2010, so these are probably going to be quite thick. And this is another thing that, again, I don't want to prejudge my Tamiya talk, but that's something that we'll be covering. Yeah, I don't think they're going to get away with it, because they're not. So, some decals. So we've got our meatballs, as we often call them, perhaps slightly disrespectfully. The rising sun, or the sun symbol of Japan. And some of you may have noticed, the sharp-eyed amongst you, if you look just behind, you can see we do in fact just there have the Japanese flag. So just thought I'd point that out. So anyway, back to the decals. So yeah, there's not many, and that's the one thing I love about Zeros. They're not plastered with stencils. There's none of that nonsense on them at all. Very simple to actually paint up, and you know, if you're not happy with these, because they're probably going to be a bit on the thick side, the good news with those is that you can probably get from someone like Montex perhaps, or one or two others that do these stencil sets, where you can get some nice paint stencils. Not going to be a difficult job to stencil them on. Entirely up to the model really, whether they want to do that or not. Then we have got a mask set. Now, I say they include masks. I do wish they'd cut them out though. And again, I was just sort of having a little dig at Airfix. Now I'm going to dig back at Tamiya, because I can't see any reason in this day and age why they can't cut them out as well for you, because that's a major pain having to go around and do all this. That should be provided. They're provided with everybody else's. Armour Hobby, Edward, yeah. Most of the big manufacturers now are providing stencils which you know, are ready to use, frankly. This is a real nightmare and a time-consuming job to cut them all out. So it's good that we have them here, but it's like they've only done half a job, isn't it, if we're honest? So I thought that should be said. Then we have got... Oh, I said there was no stencils. Oh, well, they're on a different sheet. It's okay. They're not too bad. So we've got our seat belts. I quite like these on these 48 scale kits. I think that with the right weathering and the right painting, these decal seat belts can look quite nice. They usually do them in such a way that they're quite well printed, and perhaps being a bit thicker, they're actually a good thing in this case because it makes them more robust. And you've also got your instrumentation panel decals there as well. Quite interesting, to be honest. Yeah, some nice decals there. So those are nice. And then we have got our photo etch. Not much of it, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not the biggest fan of photo etch in the world, because it always feels like another process that's tricky and, you know, harder to paint, and you've got to integrate it with the right glues and all that stuff. But anyway, yes, nice that they've actually made an effort, and there is some in there. So yes, nice little bit of photo etch fret. Then we have got, zooming out, we've got a lovely colour call-out sheet. Now, granted it's not in colour, which they tend to, that's two sheets, isn't there? 2 sheets? I'm sure there was a second. Oh yes, there's one I'm missing here, sorry. Let me get this right. Now here's where Tamiya have just had a couple of slips there, with maybe with the decals not being the best in the world, and maybe not cutting out their masks. Now they're going to strike back. So what we have here is a beautiful Colour call out sheet. Sadly it's not in colour now. On the bigger kits like the 32nd scale kits and the newer 48 scale kits, they now print them on a glossy sheet in colour, which I think would be much better actually. Especially on something that's got this rather finessed sort of camo. I think it would have been nice to see the actual colours there. That would have been better. But it's a 1-to-1 scale with the actual kit. It's actually 48 scale, so you can cut it out and use it as a mask. They can be quite useful. And then I'm going to have to move that lid because it doesn't want to stay. And then you got the other two variants, the Yamaguchi Prefecture, and they got the Bougainville in June 43 in the Battle of the Pacific. Yeah, as I say, it's just a shame they couldn't have done that in colour, but it's nice that we have it in a 1-to-1 scale. It's nice and big, it's clear. There are very, very few, I'll count on one hand, number of stencils, there they are. But it's good that they've actually done that for us, so I think we should be fairly happy with that. Then we get, when we get to the instructions, there's quite a lot to see. Again, you see, talking about value, you're getting good value because you're getting all these extras. You're getting a proper data sheet, which you don't get. This is where they creep towards wing nut wings. They don't quite make it, but they're not far away. And you're getting this at 48 scale. Not many of the manufacturers are doing anything like this. And then you've got here details about your folding wingtips and how they should be folded and all that kind of stuff in English on the other side. But they give you all the data. So they're giving you, zoom it in, they're giving you information about the aircraft, its history. Quite a long, detailed bit of data here, which is really nice to see and so lacking in a lot of these Far Eastern manufacturers. Are just not doing this, especially the from China. Border model and people like that are just not bothering at all. And then you've got the performance data as well. So you've got here engine power, 1130 horsepower, maximum speed 544 k's, armament 2 20mm cannons and 2 7mm machine guns. Machine guns on the nose and the cannons in the wing. And there you've got the differentiation explaining the different models in terms of the wingtips. So some have got the rounded tip, and you've got the A6 Model 32, the A6M3 version, which has got the chamfered off like clip wing version, all included here. So this is what's nice about the kit. You've got the options. Really nice. Talks about the battle. It shows an illustration here showing you the wingtips, the fold of the wingtip, which is nice. Talking about its greatest adversary in the Hellcat. Really nice, they've made a bit of an effort, and this is what the other manufacturers just can't be bothered to do. And this is when I start getting into ranting mode again. As I say, Tamiya are not going to get a perfect 10 out of 10 when I discuss them as a manufacturer. There's still things they can do better, but they're doing most things better than a lot of manufacturers. So I think they're probably going to come out of my reviews being, it's spoiler alert, they're going to be top dog, I think, to be honest. But others are close, like Zeke. They're providing you with a similarly close attention to detail product, but you can't, people that say Tamiya are just too expensive and Tamiya don't like them, too easy and all this. But you get this experience. It's a bit like Wing Nut Wings. You're getting a proper experience, the history. You're learning about the product or the vehicle or aircraft. You're getting a proper, like a history lesson as well as a model building experience. And that's what you pay for. You're getting something extra. So I think that's fine. I love it. I love it. Anyway, my fanboy Tamiya loving. I'm getting into trouble with people. But there are lessons here that others can learn. I think they're not considered the finest manufacturer for no reason. And again, there's no. They give a short version here of the description. And actually, it's interesting that this particular instruction leaflet it's a bit of a throwback with this sort of photograph style, a bit of a throwback to their earlier productions in the sort of 90s. So there's a little bit of a crossover here. Anyway, it starts off with the usual stuff, and then it goes into, and this again, sound like I'm having a right overselling job here, I know. But look at the detail they give you in terms of the instrumentation and the interior details. They don't leave you guessing about anything. It's the complete opposite. It's something like Kinetic, isn't it? Where you're left to guess, or just given the wrong information. Or in the case of Border, you are completely left in the dark because they don't tell you any of this. You compare this with one of the recent Borders. I've got to say this. Border is another manufacturer I probably won't be doing a talk on because they just... It would be so negative. It'd be like the Revell. But I don't think they deserve... they haven't had the history and they haven't had the spread. And I can't kind of be bothered with Border. Border don't show you any internal information, internal colours, in terms of a colour plan or a chart, or they don't even give you a guide as good as what Matchbox did when they just had the little colour guide with the small parts, just encouraging you to paint one or two of them. Tamiya give you data on every component that you're assembling and what colour it should be, and I think that's the way it should be. You shouldn't have to become, to enjoy model building, you shouldn't have to. It's exactly what puts people off the hobby, I think, and is keeping it, limiting it. Youngsters or people who've never done it before they look at this and they might think, oh, well, wow, okay. But then, when they actually have a go, they think, oh yes, it's actually very clear. I did that colour, that colour. If they don't want to paint it, they don't paint it, But when they build a Border model, for example, like the ME109 or the FW190, there's nothing. What colour is any of it supposed to be? It's just, they couldn't even get the name right. They called it a Messerschmitt FW190. You know what I mean? And I've said that before, it's true. It puts people off. You want it to be clear. It doesn't have to be easy. But, a youngster or a person who's new to the hobby shouldn't have to become an international standard researcher for, zeros and have to go to Japan and study. No, you shouldn't. That is the job of the manufacturer. I'm having a rant. It's turned into a rant. I didn't mean it to. But that's the job of the manufacturer. Pay heed. Border model, you're hopeless at this. You're one of the worst. Hong Kong model aren't much better. There's quite a few of them aren't much better at this, actually. Anyway, I'm going off beam here, and that's not what you tuned in to watch. I think you probably know my views on this, but Airfix could do better. But some of these guys in the Far East with expensive kits are just ridiculously poor. They just can't be bothered to do any. They just can't be bothered to do any research. Yeah, they can't even be bothered to get the name right. Anyway, somebody said to me a week or two ago and said, oh, "What's happened to Peter? I preferred the Shakespearean, slightly drunken Peter to this very angry, ranting, furious, in a rage Peter." I'm shooting this in the morning and I haven't got a drink. I'm sober and angry. Oh, frustration. Anyway, enough of that. I'm not really an alcoholic, don't worry. Honest. Anyway, here we go. So you're building up your instrument panel. Now you've been told all the data you need. You've also got the backs here where they actually cock the backs of the machine guns in the cockpit on the Zero, because they actually back into the cockpit. And they can clear out the cartridges. Cocking levers, amazing. Almost World War One like, isn't it, really? And then you've got all your cockpit floor, and it just amazes me that they give so much detail here. It's wonderful, really. So you tell all the colours that you need to have. There's your seat going in with your seatbelt decal, and you've got your bulkheads behind. Now this is where the Zero, of course, was extremely weak in this area, because it didn't have any armour plate to protect the pilot. I don't know what the hell they were thinking of. Here's my question about that, which I've never quite got my head around. Did they ever, I'm sure some of you are more expert than I on this, but didn't they ever try to retrofit armour plating? Because basically when a Zero, if you got sprayed from behind with bullets and you were just, by whatever it was, a Hellcat, or anything really, if it hit behind the cockpit, it's a goner, frankly. This is what happened. They used to they could spray a zero with just a short burst, and the pilot was dead. And this happened a lot. One of the most poorly armoured aircraft in this area of all the World War II planes. Amazing, really. Anyway, let's get closer in and get cracking into this, because I seem to be dragging my feet here. So you can see what I mean. Anyway, it's all open behind the seat, and there's no protection. It's almost like they didn't care about them. I don't get it, really. I mean, I suppose you could argue that they did, after all, become kamikaze, some of them, so later. So that sums it up, perhaps. I don't know. Anyway, building up some great detail. This looks like quite a detailed kit in the cockpit. Then you've got your engine cowling being created here. And you've got like an inlet control flap for the air cooling system, for the radiator. And then you've got the liquid cooling jackets here. And popping in that back plate. Then, whoops, excuse me. Then we're going to build up our engine, which again looks fairly detailed. You've got all these cylinders going in, and you've got the conrods visible, and then you've got your drive shaft, and then your spinner. And again, a very nice looking, simple, well designed bit of engineering, I suspect. Cockpit sides going in, a couple of parts to remove. Again, all the parts and levers and switches, etc. Every bit of data, even at 48 scale, is giving you even things like the lights. There's a cockpit light there, I think, and even that's been, you know, the detail of it is fantastic. And on the other side, you've got things like throttles, trim levers, and things like that. All no question or doubt about what they should be painted. And then you're going to bring your cockpit together, and then building up your cowls where the machine guns go, and then ultimately you then drop in from underneath, turn it upside down, you drop in the whole cockpit. It shows a pilot there, seated pilot. Did we have him? Oh yes, I didn't mention him, did I? So we have a seated pilot, so we could potentially display it in flight, although there's no stand, so that does make it a little bit problematic. Then we get to building up the lower wings and putting in the wheel well bay, which is quite a simple affair, really. And there's a poly cap. Now that interests me. Do we have some sort of stand in this? Do we? Why does it have a poly cap? Oh no, the poly cap. Okay, the poly cap is for the drop tank. So it's a press fit removable drop tank. That's the reason you're doing the poly cap there. Then we are going to build up the wings, and we're going to include all these the deployment hinge system. I don't know whether it physically moves, but you're going to have the option of the wings folded or not. And here we are on bringing the top and bottom wing in together, and you can see there that we're going to then put on your ailerons and your tail planes, which appear to be in one piece. So there's no separate elevator, unfortunately, but all rudder. It is all just one. Bringing those together. Oh, the rudder is separate, I beg your pardon. Again, they've done this thing where they show process lower down, and then above it, the first thing you look at, the first thing you come to, it shows it already assembled. That's a little bit of a mistake from Tamiya. That's something we saw in one of the other kits a few days ago. Trying to think what it was now. But it's not something I've not noticed in Tamiya before. Yeah, they should really just, you know, put that in, move it across, and put that image here and have it at the top. You shouldn't be looking down, looking up, and back down again. It's confusing. The landing gear covers. So you've got your doors basically going on there, and also you've got your exhaust exits here. The shroud that goes around them. Little radiator, all radiator, I think it is. Then you're going to do these wingtips, complete with the little lights in them, and you either just plug them on the end, or if you've decided to fit this is where the photo etch comes in, because it gives you a bit more realism on the end of the framework, as it were, final spar on the wingtips, and then you are either putting them on straight, or folded. Nice touch on a kit like this. And then you get your figures. So this is another, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 figures, 5 figures. Am I right? Is there really 6? There's actually 6 figures. Seated pilot, standing pilot. Oh no, no, I'm wrong. Front and rear. Okay, okay, that's the same guy. Seated, standing, another pilot without his helmet on, and then you've got 2 more here. And again, you've got all their paint call-outs clearly marked, including the life jacket that the Japanese had. All marked as clear as day. Well, I was going to say here is an absolute, lesson in how to do instructions, and it almost was. Very 99% there. There's just that thing where they showed you assembling the tailplane with the rudder at the bottom, and then showing it being fitted at the top, which is kind of the wrong way around. Don't really get too upset about it there, to be honest. In terms of clarity, I think you can't go far wrong there. You're not left guessing or spending 30 hours researching, are you? They tell you. They tell you what to do, how to do it. So, let's look at the plastic then. So far so good, it's looking pretty good. It's been a while since I've reviewed a Tamiya kit, quite a while actually. So here we've got the wings, first of all. And yeah, nice detail, very, very nice. Yeah, nice panel lines. You've got the lots of interesting bulges for the gun ports, I think that is, yeah. Then you've got the top surface here, and you've got some really, really nice crisp panel lines, recessed rivets. You can't feel those rivets, they're definitely recessed. Isn't that beautiful? It's got the typical quality Tamiya plastic. I should just add as well that historically, this is very bad of me, historically I've not used primers. When I've been building Tamiya kits I haven't. It's quite interesting because I've always found that the Tamiya's own paints, when I've used Tamiya acrylics especially, it just goes down. I don't seem to need a primer on it really. Now, if you do metallics and things, then it gets more complicated. I've never needed to wash a Tamiya sprue, and I've never actually particularly needed to prime them. So there is a good compatibility between their paint and their plastic, I think. However, please don't think I'm telling you not to prime your models, because other plastics will need priming, and lots of other kits I've done recently, Sea Harrier and Le Mans Porsche and all that stuff, for GME, Kinetic, they've all needed priming really, so please don't let me mislead you, but Tamiya I've found I've not really needed it. Yeah, they have a very clean plastic out of the mould. Maybe they actually do spray it with something, or they're dried, or they have a cleaning agent, I don't know, but they all seem very clean to me. Very, like you see a Revell kit, I'm not trying to not Revell it, it's just a statement of fact. Quite a lot of theirs, I remember the ME262, that was very messy out of the mould. There was lots of this black release agent, oily stuff all over it. You just don't get that with Tamiya, you just don't. I mean, here we've got the fuselage. Frankly, that is a really beautiful bit of moulding. Fine, crisp detail. You can see all the big rivets here around the base of the tail. Yep, nothing wrong with that. We've got a nice propeller. There's a tiny hint of flash on Tamiya. What? Is that true? Just at the end of the... Can you see that? On the tip of the prop. It's just a hint of it. Very rare. Shame on them. But this is a 13-year-old kit, so it's not a new one, don't forget. It's a new moulding. However, it's much cleaner than most kits, let's be honest. It's always mystified me that Tamiya, I know there's a story behind it, they have the 2 stars. I always wondered if they shouldn't have put it as 5 stars, because somehow that would have seemed kind of fairer. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, I'm slipping back into fanboy mode there. That won't go down well with some of you. Just joking. Just kidding. You know, models can be so sensitive sometimes, including me. Right, and by the way, yes, here's another criticism of Tamiya, just to get a bit of balance in the conversation. So another bit of criticism of Tamiya. This kit has very kindly been loaned to us by David. But of course, true to form with Tamiya, they insist on using staples on the bags. So I've had to go around and de-staple every bag very carefully. Which is frustrating, especially when you get to the clear parts. Clear parts and staples do not mix, okay? No, they don't. Jeez, it gives me a heart attack every time, really. Anyway, so there you go. Tamiya are not perfect. There's still things that they could change. Why can't they just go to resealable bags? You know, it's time that they did that, really. Again, it's like Revell's boxes. It's high time they changed, really. It's well past that time. So here we've got the sprue H, and this has got the exhausts on it, engine exhausts, and these are the exits of the exhausts here. And you've got the cowl, and the main cowl here, which looks like it's kind of like a slide moulded piece, isn't it? That's nice. Oh, the machine guns come out, 20mm machine guns. And again, this is the actual bodywork exit for those exhausts where they come out. Nice sprue, that. Very nice. You've got the side plates and the cowling. Very, very nice. Clear parts. What was I just saying? Make sure there's definitely no staples left before we get them out. Can you imagine dragging this across a staple? No, not a good idea. So, this is one I prepared earlier, as they say. So, obviously we've got quite a lot of glass house on a zero. A lot of framework, which is why the mask is so important. I have to say that that's pretty beautiful. I've got to say that's nice. Very nice. Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing really. Might be not the absolute clearest on the centre section there, but it's very good. I don't think we can be too fussy about it, really. It's very bright and crisp. They have a very even sort of thickness to their clear parts Tamiya. The consistency to it, you know. Can't find much wrong with that, to be honest. It's just always very nicely done. And there's you don't have a problem with the seam like you do on the jets. See, again, to be very balanced, I will just say one other thing that gripes me about Tamiya. I need to make a list of them because I might forget. And it's important I do when I do the review on Tamiya as a brand that I do make these points, really. But the people understand that I am objective and I do spot every fault, especially when they're consistently the same. And that's these seam lines. They tend to have a lot of seam lines on their clear canopies, things like P-51 Mustang or jet fighters. There's always a seam line. Now other people, you know, again, people jump up and oh, that's part of the manufacturing. Well, no, because there's lots of manufacturers that are avoiding that now. So again, Tamiya, I think you just need to have a rethink, you know. We can't allow complacency to sink in and just keep doing things the way we've always done it. So they need to sort out their staples and they need to sort out the seam line and their decals. There you go, see? I'm not a fanboy at all. Right, we've got these tips of the wings and the ailerons. Again, these parts are so beautifully figured, aren't they? They're always crisp and clean. There's the wing tips, either the straight ones, clip ones, or the rounded ones. You've got lovely detail on your ailerons there. The little ribs on them. You've got your machine gun. Can you see this? Machine gun exits here in the wing. Those are nicely done. Not sure if the camera can do justice to those. Those are beautiful. Yeah, that's very nice. Like that. Another nice sprue. Another nice sprue. It's that one. And that just leaves us with this one big sprue. There's some polycaps, which we won't get excited about the polycaps, I don't think. But here we've got So we've got our seated pilot. Now this is where it gets interesting, because the seated pilot from the Tamiya's figures are usually really pretty good, but the older ones are not quite as special. Now this is an older design of pilot. Now we'll see the other figures in a minute and you'll see there's a big difference. So this is the sort of early sort of 80s, 90s Tamiya style pilot. But it's good, there's nothing wrong with it at all. To my mind though, he doesn't look very Japanese in his clothes, his hat. Doesn't look terribly Japanese, looks almost American to me. So I think he's a bit of a generic pilot, Airfix fashion there. I think it's a trick they've learned from Margate. But, zooming out, here we've got an absolute range of all the fine parts. And again, it's 48 scale kit and it's not new, and yet it's got some real finesse and sophistication to it. Look at the parts. Bulkheads. Seat. And again we've got some other gun ports here. No, we're not. There we go. Max zoom. There we go. You've got your rudder there. Lovely engine cylinders here. And here. Instrument panel there. These are your push rods, part of the engine. There. And there. And then we've got our tail planes. I say they're all one piece, not separate elevators. Slightly disappointing, but at least we've got ailerons that can be adjusted and posed. And then we've got the drop tank. Got our gear covers, doors, and then we've got the actual gear legs themselves, the wheels. And that's the internal part of the gear bay, is it? Or is that the bottom of the cockpit? Bottom of the cockpit, I think, sorry. Yes, it is. And then you've got all these little bits of levers, these are instrumentation, things in the cockpit, levers, throttle levers, trim levers. And you've got your gear bay, which is tiny, aren't they? The gear and the bay is tiny. Certainly not a big undercarriage on this plane. And then you've got this rather nice pilot seat, but it looks like it's already been shot up already. Remember I was saying there's no armour plating behind him. It's just crazy. What were they thinking of? I mean, you know, just a brief burst of a few machine gun bullets and you're going to hit the back of the pilot's head and his back and he's gone, isn't he? Don't really understand the thinking there. That was very odd. And then here you've got the internal parts of the cockpit with all your switches and instrumentation. And you've got here, down here you've got some oxygen bottles. Beautiful kit. And it's very clean looking, isn't it, the mould, you know. There's no sort of flashy bits on it apart from that tiny bit we spotted on the prop. Very nice sprues, very clean, you know. So let us just, there's one more sprue and that's the figures, which are something that I think was added for this particular issue of the kit. That goes in there. And again, one thing that is good about it, I moaned about the staples on the bags, but at least they're in a separate bag, aren't they? Yeah, we're not getting all this rubbing together that we got in, was it Models Fit? Where they just packed everything in one bag and things are rubbing together a little bit and scratching, and yeah, you don't want that. You don't want that. So last but not least, we've got these figures, and they're really nice. Look at this. These are really brilliant. If you like to add some figures to your scenes with your aircraft, and a lot of us like to have figures to animate the scene, just check these guys out. So, look at that. Look at the life jacket they've got. Look at the details here. How crisp it is. And you've got the heads here, complete with their sort of muffler style of flying helmet, Looks very, very Japanese in style, doesn't it? Beautiful. Got a couple more heads on the other side. Two different ones. Again, got these flying ear muffler type helmets. Very popular in the Navy. Got a parachute here. And then you've got like a... Is that a parachute or is that just like a satchel bag? I think it is. Satchel bag. And then you've got all their arms are here, look. Remember, Japanese Imperial Navy, even when they've got no arms, they're not armless. And look at that. Is that samurai sword? Samurai swords, look. Oh, that's impressive. Samurai swords. Oh, fantastic. And there's a guy here with his hands holding a pair of gloves. Can you see that? Those are nice, aren't they? I like those. And then didn't look in detail at the other two figures. You got those two. You got guy on the right with the sort of traditional Japanese type life jacket. One on the left has got more of a conventional style, and then the other one, you've got one on the left here has got is just like a don't know if he's actually a flyer, a pilot himself, or whether he's look at the picture actually. Which one is he? Yeah, he's like a pilot, but it's just a different style of outfit without any life jacket. And again, if we go back to the box, to show you the box, you can see them there. Look. Aren't those nice? They really add something, don't they, I think. You see, manufacturers, we want figures. Yeah, look at how it instantly adds value. You know, you've got a sprue there. So why can't Airfix do that? Why can't Revell? Yeah. Why can't many of them? It's not just having to go at those two well-known companies. There's quite a lot of companies that just don't go anywhere near figures. They're terrified of them. Oh, well, it's an extra cost. Yeah, and everything's got a cost in life, but you just charge more for it. Doesn't stop Tamiya selling these, does it? The whole concept of this argument is absurd. It is absurd. I think that the likes of the Airfixes and Revells of this world need to understand better their customer base, and I don't think they do. They've got basically two types of client. I think those companies. They've got youngsters who are buying a model just for fun and maybe even as a spontaneous purchase, and then they've got us kind of die-hard model fans, you know. Now the first ones, yes, they don't want to pay extra for figures, and they probably wouldn't paint the figures, etc. But the second type, the type that most of us watching this video are, they would value it. They would, you know, enjoy adding figures to their aircraft, and it just lifts it. And they're certainly prepared to pay for it. So for me, it's about scales. At 72nd scale, not adding any figures, I can understand. Still think there should be seated pilots, though that's an absolute given. But I'm going off as a tangent with this. The point is, it makes this a very decent value proposition indeed. Where am I with this? Well, I like it a lot, to be honest. Can't believe I never got this, actually. It's strange. I'm going to give it, I mean, there's the staples and one or two slightly confusing moments in the instructions. Thick decals. I'm reaching for some negative, trying to be seen to be doing the right thing. I mean, it's almost a 10 out of 10 kit. It's close, but it's not perfect. But as an example of a 48 scale kit, it's damn close to perfect. It really is. So I'm going to give it 9.5 out of 10. I think that's completely fair, actually, because the negatives I've brought up are so tiny and almost insignificant, really. It's a beautiful model, that. Absolutely awesome. Anyone who's interested in the Pacific Theatre should definitely get one of those. 9.5 out of 10 from me. Hope you'll join me and hope you'll give me 10 out of 10 with a like and a thumbs up. And don't forget to ding the notification bell if you're already a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber, why not? It doesn't cost you anything. So please subscribe. All you do is at the end you'll see my face will pop up over on this side here in a little circle with the clapperboard, and you just click on that and that's how you subscribe, so it's not a problem. Anyway, thank you very much to David for loaning us that kit, because that is absolutely gorgeous, frankly. Lovely plastic. Another good one he's lent us. He's lent us a number that have been, and that has exceeded expectations. Again, I thought it was going to be pretty good, but I thought it was going to be a 9, but it's not far off a 10. I've got to be honest, it's very, very close. Just one or two things that Tamiya need to iron out and change, I think. Just need to evolve a little bit more. Perhaps it's time that they had a move forward, and because they haven't made any big steps in the last 4 or 5 years, really. But a beautiful thing, and make a lovely Zero. So tempting. Just give us a bit more colour, and slightly better decals, and no staples, what have you. Thank you for watching. I hope you found it interesting. Please stay tuned for next time, because we'll have lots of more interesting things for you to see. Our friend David's lent us a couple more interesting models we're going to have a look at, and there'll be others coming along as well. I'm sure we've got some more ICM coming in and things like that. So stay tuned. Thank you very much for watching. Please, until next time, look after yourself, stay safe, stay well. Thanks a lot. Until then, bye for now.